This is a group of pictures from Leimbach's portfolio. Some were from his work period of his life and some were from his schooling. And so we're going to review these here with you, and here we go. This is the Brown Building sculpture in Wichita, Kansas. I have no other details on it, but this is from his portfolio. This is a clay image that he created for the Northwestern Terracotta Company. I believe they were out in Oregon, and this is some of his fine works that he did when he was on the West Coast. This is a wood carving of a cornice for some project that he worked on, or maybe it might have been something from his school. This is possibly this is a wood carving of possibly a Lippensinger prancing horse, and I'm not sure what it was for, but it is pretty extravagant. 1947 would have been after the war, and so this is probably in Germany. This is a pencil drawing that he did in 1959. Another pencil drawing of a sheep herder in the flock. He did this bone sketching. He was in school, definitely in Hamburg, and he did sketches, I believe, as an exercise to understand the formation and outline of the human body, and they started with the bones, which I thought was a very basic, good idea for an artist. Another pencil sketch, 1938. This is the year he was deported, so I'm not sure if this was in Germany or in America. This is an interesting document. He was here legally as a legal alien, and it shows his address, 3136A California Avenue. And you see on this page here his picture and fingerprint are on the left, and it shows on the right the year that this was happening, and that he moved from 3136A California to 3421 South Grand. And again, at the bottom, the chief of police had to sign off. This is a picture of a project that he worked on called the Main Portal Palace of Food Products. And this is for the American Pacific International Trade Exposition in California, which happened to be the World's Fair in San Francisco at that time. He stayed the full term of the fair. This is a document that the government issued Mr. Leimbach after the war. He was, since he spoke perfect English and was a resident of the U.S., he was made mayor of the town of Kalten-Nordheim, where he lived. This is a picture of a clay bust of his son Rudy. This is an art show at the German House on Lafayette and Jefferson Avenue in St. Louis. You can see August on the left with all his paintings and wood carvings, and in the foreground center are two pictures I recognize that I have one in my possession, and the second one my son has. The first one on the table, I have the second. And on the right rear, you can see a live orchestra playing music. So this was a big event for him. And of course, there's people in the audience on the right in front of the stage. This picture is very historical. This is the first sketch, and I would call it a concept, of the Madonna monument. This is on onion skin paper. He had 3 days to come up with this idea for the DAR to give to them as a proposal. This is the second stage of the Madonna. She is a clay model. A clay full-size monument, 12 feet tall, and Mrs. John Trigg Moss from the DAR is standing on the left. You can see how detailed this is. There are cactus there, rattlesnakes, shotguns, babe in arm, a small child on her left, and she is a very stoic, tough-looking pioneer woman. This is the third level of the monument. She is still in clay, but that's the finished product taken off the pedestal. This is August Leimbach's business card. He lived at 3424 Magnolia. And those of you that remember that period of time, this is probably back in the 20s and 30s, that the Laclede exchange at 6272 was the number of digits that you had for a telephone. There were only 4 digits. This is another pencil sketch from his portfolio. This is of a human skull sketch that he did in Hamburg, Germany in 1903. This is a rather unique thing that he made for someone. The name is either K or R. Hartman. And this is a full-size page of a book, the size of a page of a book, and it was put into a book first page. And this is when you loaned your book to somebody, you wanted it back, so this was a little bit more formal. It showed who owned it and a little bit of artwork there, and that you wanted your book back eventually. Another one of his projects out on the West Coast, Algonite Stone Company, 1927. And this was the year of his Madonna creation, so he must have been doing this before the Madonna. Another pencil sketch, multiple color. This is August as a very young student in his art studio in Germany. And just notice the detail on all of the project that he worked on. And I'm sure this is clay, but they must have had reinforcing rods in this clay to hold this thing together. And they dressed, very formally on the job and in school. He has a smock on and collar and some form of mini tie. This is an active working architectural sculptor in his studio. And it shows a full crew of workers and the artist. And the artist is located behind the man with the gruffy beard, and he is just the third one on the left, actually the fourth one on the left, with a smock and his tie on. This is more bone anatomy sketching from his schooling. This is a pencil sketch of the Rathaus in Michelstadt, Germany, where he lived in his family years, and it has a note on it that the place was built in 1486, so it has a lot of history. And another sketch that he had done there when he lived there. He did much of his artwork in his free time in his retirement year. Another pencil drawing of a fawn, pencil drawing of trees and woods. He did like gnarly trees in many of his projects that he had painted or penciled. This is the pencil drawing of a buffalo hunt, showing the buffalo and the Indian that are pursuing the buffalo and herding them for the kill. And I think this type of thing that he represents here was from his early experience in the United States of the Western movement, which helped him create thoughts about the Madonna of the Trail monument. So this was very helpful in his future about America and how it was developed along the way of the Pioneer Trail. This is a Texas Longhorn steer. I'm assuming this was done when he was in Texas, and I'm sure that those horns had some type of a metal structure and they're holding the horns up, because again, this is a clay sculpture. This is August Leimbach on the left with fellow artist colleagues at an art studio of one of their homes or studio. Another pencil drawing of a fawn in color, very delicate. This is a clay corner architectural sculpturing for some corner molding of a building. I'm sure there was a right-hand side and a left-hand side, but this shows the left-hand side. And again, note the extreme detail in this sculpturing. This is a clay monument of the Statue of Liberty. Now, of course, he's not the original sculptor of it, but he did a replica of this for someone or some company. This is a pencil drawing from his portfolio. This is for a high school in Portland, Oregon, crafted in Alameda, California. Look at the fine detail in that column. More pencil drawing, two bears fighting. Another pencil drawing of a fawn. August Leimbach and his finished clay project. Again, note he has a smock on and his hat and his finely tuned mustache. Very detailed project for Northwestern terracotta. This is a Leimbach. He's top center with his work crew and one of his buildings that looks like a very crude building made of wood. And again, he's top center, a little bit to the left, and has his schmuck on and tie and his hat. He looks pretty cocky there. This is a wood carving that he created in 1922. I have this in my possession, and this is solid mahogany, and it is one piece, nothing added on the base. Its legs are tied to the base. The only thing that is added is the antlers were separate. They plug in, and he had to do those separately. Very, very detailed. And about 22 inches high. These are the dwarves that I spoke of earlier in my presentation. These were carved of wood. This is a sketch for a poster, and there was a lot of German humor in here. We have the two hunters are drinking while the deer is watching in the background and being observant of what their location was. Another sketch for a poster, 1957, and the hunter is going after the rabbit, but his hound dog is lifting a leg on the tree on the right. This is a document. He was a master mason and in 1920, and gave no other details of that. This is a stock certificate of the German that he had in the German house, and that was where he had many art shows, and German Cultural Society was there, and it was a big center for Germans to meet and party, and mostly party, but a lot of formal things went on there other than beer drinking. Another 5 shares in the same building. Note 1929. Note that was the time that the stock market was falling. This is a citation that Frida Dene, her second wife, had received for service during World War II that she provided for the German government during the war movement. Another early pencil sketch. This looks like the Statue of Liberty face, but I don't know. It has thorns on it, so again, it's a pen sketch. Okay, this is August's wedding pictures of his second marriage. August is in the center, his wife Frida on the left. To August's right is his brother Walter. To his right is his wife, and above her is his brother Max, and to the left of Max is Max's wife. In the front left foreground is my mother Catherine, and then those are her cousins down in the front row with her. This is a very important picture here. He had an uncle that lived in Cleveland, Ohio, and he made this bust out of clay of the brother. You can see the similarity. And this particular picture appeared in the 1938 National Geographic magazine with other down at the trail of documents and pictures. It was actually a 2-page story on he and his life and his artwork. This is the picture of a group that were on a party on a ship, and you can see some of the gentleman on the right was a Scotchman, and other type of costumes were represented. August is on the left top. Another picture on the ship, the Bremen, on the way back to Germany for his social visit, and August is visible on the left. There's a chef with a white hat on, and August's picture shows his glasses glaring in the light. This is a very historic picture. In 1933, there was a proposal for the riverfront monument in St. Louis, and he had this proposal. It was a clay model, maybe 3 by 3 feet, and it was stored in the basement at the old City Hall, but nothing ever became of it because we have the St. Louis Arch gateway to the west located there now where this was proposed. But the old courthouse that is in the background and the mall still exists, and so the only difference there in the front ground is his proposal versus the arch. This is also a proposal by August in 1925 of a promenade which is located just north of the arch along the riverfront. And there were railroad tracks back there, and he shows like a walkway and a bunch of commercial buildings behind there. So it was something for the citizen to walk to, and still there was commercialization consideration in the background. This is a picture at Washington University in St. Louis. He was an art teacher there, and he had to his right is a live Indian model. And as you can see, the students were very proficient in what he had taught them, and the students look like they're doing very good work. This is a wood carving back in Kaltenordheim that he was commissioned to do, and it has all the names of the people that were in his Triumvirate Society that died in the war. Again, solid wood. This is a architectural project that he had at Powell Hall, which was the St. Louis Theater. This was created in 1927, and it was an immense job. This is just a little section of wall detail. This is the ceiling, and in the next pictures you'll find out how large the ceiling is. This is several of the mezzanines and the architecture molding on the perimeters. This is the mezzanine on the left, one of the mezzanines, and gives you an idea of the immense size of this building. This is at the St. Louis Zoo birdhouse. He created the column tops there, and another section on a column. Also notice on the top left there was long ceiling moldings in the corners, flat view of a bird. This is the Missouri State Capitol. On both sides he designed the candelabras, and here's both sides of the. And then in the state capitol at Jefferson City, he also designed the bronze chandelier which hangs in the rotunda today. Now, he did not physically do anything on this, the works on these lighting projects, but he did do the sketching of these for just the concept. This is an 8-foot diameter oil painting built into the wall at St. Luke's UCC Church on Tennessee Avenue. This is the same picture that towered over me when he had it in his home when he was working on it in 1937. And it was quite impressed. This was to see this picture, and I'm so small. This is a very historic tree. It's on the wagon trail at Council Groves, Kansas, where one of the monuments for the Madonna is located. And this is very historic. It has the significance is that when the wagon trains came through from the west, they needed to have a place to communicate with people that were either had passed through or were passing through, and so they left notes on the tree that they had been there and where they were going, and just details if they lost a member of their group through death or had a fight with an Indian tribe or something like that. So we think that perhaps it may be the predecessor to the post office, where it was for communication purposes, and this was strictly for the people on the wagon trail. And one of the reasons for this, the next stop where the monument was Lamar, Colorado, and the trail took a deviation either north, west, or south. So it may let the future people coming through know which route that the person that posted this had gone or was planning on going. This is the most western monument in Upton, California. This is a wood carving done after World War II, solid wood, and no piecing. This is a very meaningful picture for me. This is August, his son Rudy, and his daughter Elsa on my back porch in 1938, and this was the day that they left when they were deported to go back to Germany. The little guy on the right happens to be myself. I was 5 years old at the time, and this is the last time that I saw my grandfather and my aunt. I never saw them again. Rudy came back to St. Louis, and of course we were friends and hung out together. This is one of his more famous works in Galveston, Texas. He did a Hotel Galvez lobby. It's been restored, and it's a 5-star hotel, and evidently one of the more finer works that he did. This is a oil painting of my mother, Catherine, his daughter, and I have this in my possession. It's about 4 feet high, very impressive. This is a picture of a friend of his in Michelstadt, where he lived, and he's holding a painting that hangs in the Rat House. The Rat House, of course, is City Hall, and my grandfather had painted a painting, and it does hang there now. Okay, this is a 1966 acrylic done in Michelstadt by August, and notice that the colors are more vibrant because of the being acrylic. And this reminds me of many of the rolling hills in Augusta, Missouri, and the wine region on Highway 94. It's small churches and little villages. It's so similar, and the Germans did settle there as well, and so it's very meaningful to see this picture here because of the similarity. Again, stream, very colorful, acrylics, 1956. This is a Missouri scene. I have this oil painting in my possession, and he did like to paint gnarly trees. My daughter-in-law noted that one time because we have several paintings and the trees have a lot of character to them. This is an oil, unknown subject, and it was highly damaged, and unfortunately we had to destroy it. It was not worth the effort and the money to have it restored. This is a painting of the Little Prince. I have this in my possession. It has some damage on the right, and he looks very noble. This is another copy of a very, very well-known Rembrandt picture, The Man in the Golden Helmet. And somewhere in the family, someone has this, but I have no idea who it may be. Another picture that he created, and oil painting, and it's in my son's possession as of today. Another of the same vintage. Again, notice the darker colors on the oil because of the age of the oils at that time, probably in the 20s, and that's the time frame that he was very prolific with the oil paintings. This is surprisingly bright oil, a gift to a friend of his when his daughter got married, and when his daughter's husband died and she was ready to pass on, she passed this picture back on to myself, and it remains in the family. Another picture, I have no idea it was a copy of a famous painting, and I have this in my possession today. Another picture, Diana the Huntress. This is a very popular picture, and I have this also in my possession, and it's been restored and it's in excellent condition. I have this painting in my possession as well. This is a landscape, a gnarly tree. Early wood carving, had that in my possession. It's sort of crude, but it's still hand carved and has a lot of character to it. Same subject, side view. This is one of the Madonna monuments located in Lexington, Missouri. This one has not been restored. This is a architectural sculpturing that he did at the St. Louis Zoo Reptile House. And notice this snakes on the column and the ceiling molding, column molding. Again, cobras here. And a frog on the top of the column. More column detail. This is a very detailed flat piece of work that he did for the Rialto Theater in St. Louis. I believe the Rialto was on Grand Avenue at one time, and it was on the same near the same block that the St. Louis Theater was, and of course the St. Louis Theater was Powell Hall. This is a monument of the Madonna in Richmond, Indiana, and its uniqueness is the color is ivory. All the other ones are this dark red algonac stone, but they refurbished it and did it in an ivory color. This is the location of the Madonna where it was sculpted, and it still stands today. It's on Lockborough and Gravois Avenue in St. Louis, Missouri. And the reason this building was selected was because of the tall ceilings. The Madonna was 12 foot high, so it had to have over 12 foot high ceilings. And of course, a way to take it and then ship it somewhere, so it had to have a door tall enough to remove it from the building. This is a oil painting of the Rathaus in Michelstadt, and this is the postcard of the same Rathaus in Michelstadt. And this is the restored Madonna in Vandalia, Illinois. The restorations made these much brighter and more cheerful. This is Frida and August Leimbach in Michelstadt in their very final years, and they are by the Rathaus. Picture, actually a photograph of them, a very common historic building in their town. This is their son Rudy in a custom suit. After the war, he was in Frankfurt, Germany as an interpreter for the American government in Eisenhower's headquarters, and he needed a business suit, and it was not obtainable after the war, so we sent the material, this brown material, to him, and he had the suit made in Frankfurt. This is Frida and August, again in their final years. This is the town of Michelstadt. Again, rolling hills, looks like towns in suburban Missouri, along the Missouri River. Augusta was the town primarily we thought about. Okay, this is a picture of a woman named Schmitty. We met her, and she was evidently, she lived in Reno, and for some reason she was a caregiver for my mother, Catherine, in her childhood when August was traveling on his business jobs, and he needed a caregiver for her. This is a picture of Elsa Leimbach, his daughter, and she was at architectural school in Jena, and opposite her is her professor. This is Norman Karl. I hope that you have enjoyed this presentation, and thank you so much for looking and listening, and I hope that you've learned something about August Leimbach and his family and the tributes they had paid during World War II. Thank you.